Alright, you beautiful big heads, it's your boy Zach, and welcome back to some Alchemy Stars. In today's video, we're talking about team building, and all that, which it holds, leader slots, order of characters, what makes a good sniper, DPS, and all that good stuff. We're going over a lot of things. So, yeah, I might miss some things, because, what happens. So if I miss anything, let me know. But for the most part, this is just for newer players who have been asking, how do you build teams? How do I use these characters to make a team? So, yeah, we're going to look at things at a very base level, and then from there you can build up yourself. But, I'm going to give you that foundation. All right? All right, so let's just hop on into it. So starting out with the layout of, the team. So you have 5 slots, obviously. Now you have your DPS slots, which is the 1st and the 5th. And in the middle, that's where you have your converters and your flex. So depending on stats, because that does matter when it comes to laying out the characters, that will determine where people are in the middle. But at the very ends is where you would have your DPSs. So starting off with the captain slot, which is one of the most important slots for many people because it allows you to manage a team, honestly, because if you're newer, you don't have, everything you need to make a team, because in Alchemy Stars, mono teams rule. It is a fact. Having that elemental advantage over an enemy is always better than neutral damage or not having it at all. So if the enemy is fire, you better be using water and just putting it out there. So looking at the team, first slot, captain slot. That's important for you because if you do not have all the characters you need to make a full water team, you have your 2 converters in your 2nd and 3rd slot, you're supporting your 4th, and then your actual DPS in the 5th. You don't have, someone for that 1st slot. You're fighting a fire enemy. You have a water team. But that means you could put a thunder or fire character in that 1st slot to fill in the blank as another DPS because they will have neutral damage, even though neutral damage isn't the best. If you don't have another character, that you can put there, the neutral damage will be better off. And obviously you wouldn't want to put a force character since you're fighting, in this situation, you're fighting a fire character or a fire enemy. You don't want to put force because they have type disadvantage. So thunder or fire will work because it's neutral. The leader slot is great because whoever goes there can attack no matter what. So if you have your full blue team, blue tiles everywhere, if your fire character walks over them in the leader slot, they can still do their attack as if it was red tiles and they're doing fire. So captain slot is your flex slot, but also another slot where you just put your DPS if you have, the proper typing. So just keep that in mind. And that last slot is for your actual main DPS, but it does change depending on the team you're working with. So like say this, we're gonna switch over to my water team real quick. Cho was just so dumb that she would want to be in the 1st slot because she's just doing so much, She's a sniper that's doing crazy things, diagonal hits, building up damage and everything else. So she always wants to be in the 1st slot. And then our secondary DPS on this team would be Rebecca. Even though she's a support, she's still really good because she has the Poison 2.0 and she just does good damage and she has good stats. And then as you can see in the middle, we have our supports, 2 converters, and then another 3rd converter, but Bethlehem also works as a attack buffer as well because that's her secondary effect. She's more of a hybrid. So this is what we are working with, as our water team. And then again, we'll look at the force team just for another example. We got the force team, similar thing. We have our 2 converters, our support, and then we have our DPSs on the front and back half. Now, in this team, Hero could be actually the captain because it just depends. So Hero can do enhanced basics. She walks over a enhanced tile, which is great for her in a leader slot because it allows her to get off more damage. But on this team, Rail also has some benefit as the 1st person in the 1st slot because when she uses her chain combo, she sets down mines that do defense ignoring damage. So in this team, I'd rather have the defense ignoring bombs on the field than, again, my enhanced basics, but that can change depending on the enemy I am fighting. All this is situational, but at the same time, for like 99% of the game, you're good because there's not too much really hard content. But, if you're starting out, you really don't got to worry about that hard content too much because you shouldn't be trying to get to the end of the race right away. You got to enjoy the journey. So just keeping all this in mind, All right. So moving down to detonators because we're about to break down, what makes a good detonator. And usually, more often than not, it is a 2 surrounding cluster chain combo, because we're looking at this at a base level, not worrying about anything else like kit or anything else. Pulling up the skill range, 2 surrounding clusters is just so good because it hits everything in a big ass range. It just is what it is. Now, baseline 2 surrounding clusters is your best friend when it comes to looking for a detonator because so many of them have it. And usually if they have it, they're pretty good. Next up, when it comes to these ranges, even though you can't see the range on this one, is a jumping detonation, which is what Muyu, Bai, and Haiti have, which is they jump to the enemy first and then they do the actual chain combo, which allows them to get that big hit off properly no matter where they're at. Now, obviously, they have to still be in range, but if the enemy is in range, they're going to take a lot of damage because you're actually hitting your chain combo in the best way possible because you're jumping to them. Next up, we have the 24 tile one, which is similar to a, 2 surrounding cluster, just having the corners edged off a little bit, to make a diamond shape. So The reason why two surrounding clusters I feel is better is only because you don't really have to worry about an enemy being outside of your two surrounding clusters. The 24 tiles, there's that chance that, they might be outside of it just because of how it's angled on the corners, So yeah, that's why it's a little bit lower. And then we're going into Bethlehem's, which even though obviously some of these characters aren't detonators, obviously, but we're just talking about, the chain combos themselves. So just keep that in mind. So next up, we have the radial shape, which is pretty much a snowflake, and most of the damage is centered on the actual, first surrounding cluster on your character. So you are losing out on a lot of damage because the rest of it is being dispersed in all angles. Now, last but not least, you have someone like Sharona, who is similar to a radial shape, but it's just, one cluster in a cross shape. So it's a little less than the other one, so that's why it's a little bit lower. But obviously, if we look past just the baseline, Sharona's still good because she does have a teleport, and her actual active skill can be used to hit, two certain clusters when the teleport is done. So that's going like a little bit above that baseline to see, the more potential of a character. But it's just, natively, because more often than not, you will just be using chain combos and basic attacks. That's why Sharona usually, is a little bit lower on people's mind, because her chain combo just isn't that good to, justify everything else in the kit. Moving over to snipers, we have various snipers here that all do similar yet different things. Starting out with Reinhardt, who's the best, but looking at it just at a base level, not counting all the crazy things she can do, she's actually still a great sniper because she hits all enemies, which is very rare to hit everything, and of course surrounding clusters, which is a really big area. Hitting everyone in a really big area, just great as a sniper. Not counting anything else, that's just great. Moving forward, we have Toru, who has splash damage. Now, splash strikes are good because when they hit the enemy, then they will do an additional little cross hit on the enemy as well. So this allows them to be better against enemies who have multiple tiles. So you get your 4 hits, and then all those hits have splash on them, which is, just as good. Next up, we have someone like Paloma, who doesn't have a specific range. She just has a number of enemies that she can hit. So hers is the 4 nearest enemies. So it's like, if there's only 4 enemies on the field, she's hitting everybody. You could end up being up all the smaller mobs, and she's always hitting everything on the field. So another great sniping. Now we're moving over into random territory, because that's what Vic does. He just hits shit. When you walk over blue tiles, Vic just hits shit, You don't know what he gonna hit, but he gonna hit shit. So that's why random DPSs are just like, fuck. Unless there's literally only one enemy, it's a roll of the dice, baby. And last but not least, we have Lusong, who is one hit. Now, there are other one hitters, like Mythos is the quickest one that comes to my mind. But the difference between them is Mythos hits hard with her one hit, while Lusong does not. So if you're going to use a one hit, make sure that one hit hits hard. Supports. So supports are like the easiest thing to work with because it's hard to be a bad support. Like most characters in the game that are supports are good. So here you're pretty much free. But detonators, I said detonators, but converters, when it comes to your conversion, if they do high conversion, there's obviously going to be a cost. Like for most high converters, like Bethlehem, if we go in here real quick, go to a breakthrough. Her first breakthrough is preempt the strike, which allows her to use her skill right away. Now Bethlehem without her preempt the strike has a 4-turn cooldown. So that's you waiting 4 turns to do anything with her. So unless you have a breakthrough in said character, you really wouldn't want to use her. That's why the preemptive converters are so good. So go in here real quick, and we will set it to convert in water. And so we will go to my lovingly Sariel. And you see what makes preemptive converters so good is, as the name implies, they are preemptive. There are several free preemptive converters that you can work with, so they are great. But, first of all, let's turn this the fuck down, because she's kind of going crazy right now. Let's go a little bit further back. There we go. But so this is what she looks like off a rip. 4 tiles from red or green to blue on a 2-turn cooldown with preempt the strike. So usually what you look for is the turn to conversion ratio. So she's getting 4 random tiles every 2 turns. So honestly, a 4 to 2 ain't bad. And even with cross converters, it's 4-turn cooldown for big crosses. But initially on that first turn, you still wouldn't want to use them unless you have them with the preempt the strike, because then right away they can use the conversion, and then you can, work from that forward instead of working up to it. So yeah, just keep that in mind. And then when it comes to the double chain combos like Florine, the regular ones, which is Ishvan, Hydrad, and Luis, they are usually used in burst teams. But then Florine breaks the mode a little bit because she is a 6-star. Because not only does she, allow double chain combos, her percentages are higher because she's a higher rating, obviously, because all the other ones are 5 stars. But she actually does boost chain combos natively in her kit, which is also great. Obviously, we're going past that, initial chain combo because now we're in support range where the entire character themselves matters. But yeah, so she buffs chain combos natively by herself. And on top of that, she just does great damage herself. So she's like a triple threat. Double chain combo, just natively enhancing the damage of chain combos and does great damage herself. A triple threat. Bethlehem, another character who does many things because she has Yes, she has conversion, which is already one thing, but she has selective conversion, which is even better. And then she also has attack buff, triple threat right there. Converting, selectable converting, and damage buff, triple threat. Just saying. And then apart from that, you also have your other ones who have teleportation, because that's another aspect of converters, which is repositioning. So you have your leaping converters like Harleen, who can, go to anywhere on the map and convert the entire row. And then you have your niche selectable tile converters like Schwan, who can make a line or a square. So again, it's really hard to be a bad support, but usually more often than not, you want 2 converters, for as most mobility as possible, plus your flex slot, which is your teleporter, healer, attack buffer, anything like that. And these are just some good examples of that who all do great things. But again, keep in mind the breakthroughs, because depending on the breakthrough, that determines whether or not that character is really worth your time at the current standpoint. Because if their cooldown is too high and you need a dupe, then it's okay to just leave them on the back burner and wait to come back to them later. Because you might pull a copy of them randomly. Like, even if, banners always come back. The wish list is a thing when those come around too. The game's very generous, so you don't gotta be too afraid with how you spend your loot member. But even then, when a banner comes back, you only have to use star flares, not even special star flares. If you just save your star flares, then, and use them at the specific banners that you want to build up a certain character, then you'll be fine, you'll be pretty good off. But yeah, going back to where we started, the layout of the team, and then we're just gonna make a quick team real quick. This is a team using pretty much free characters. I mean, take out Phyllis Shy for Hydra, which we can do real quick. Boom, so a completely free team, more or less. But now, what we do here is, you go into the insight and you look at every character's attack stat, right? And now, what you do from that point forward is you reposition them into who has the most attack. So, least to most. Boom. And then you ignore that first slot. So it's from the second to last slot of least attack to most attack. Because the person at the last slot will obviously get the multipliers of everything else of all the combos she built up along the way. But yeah, this is usually what your team will look like. So again, DPS in the first and last slot, converters, support, and boom, you have yourself a team. So yeah, hopefully this helps. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'll see you in the next one. Love you guys, and bye-bye.